we're ready.
I know.
And we're never
The clock's not ready.
and we're that never happened. After the swearing in, I wasn't sure we were ever gonna be.
Before we start, just get ahead of some.
Oh my.
It's just a bomb. That you can see the bomb wires. This and lay all up. I'm gonna go.
That has to be another head. I don't want your attention that far.
I try. It's a good one. It's a good read.
Everybody calls your bar. I have these travel approval and then on one side, maybe different bar answers approval.
Right. 10 o'clock. All right.
Recording in progress.
I'd like to call to order the State Board of Appraisers, Abstractors, and Home Inspections. Thank you to everybody for being here. We have a few, let's see, start the recording, let's call the order first. Let's go out there, let's come up with that.
Let's call the order.
Call order now, the introduction of guests. We have some really important people here with us today. I mean, some really, really important people. That is Mr. Dennis Badger and Larry Disney. You guys wouldn't mind me just give us like a 1 minute with it, who you are, what you do, why you're here. Okay, go ahead, first, I take.
Hey y'all, my name is Larry Disney. I have been in the field of appraisal real estate since 1982 and was one of the first, of course, when licensing was initiated 1989. I started working 2 years after with the state of Kentucky as an investigator. From there, I was promoted up to the executive director, and in all the time I had 27 years in state government. I retired in 17 and have since been doing appraisal reviews, what we're doing here today, working with states, and I didn't retire from life. I retired from a state job, so I'm working steadily, and I thank you all for the opportunity to be here today. And I do the education portion for a number of providers, and we'll have a discussion after the meeting, I understand. And I thank you all.
And I'm Dennis Badger. So good morning. Thank you for having me here. Very pleased to be here. I've been appraising since 1989. Have worked with boards since 1998. Teach appraisal, continuing education courses, still do some low level, like low volume appraisal activity as well, just to stay plugged in. Served on the appraisal standards board for 4 years. I have a fee practice in Kentucky and Louisville, and served 2 years as the chief appraiser for Farm Credit Mid-America. So got a little bit of experience on the banking side as well, but primarily do consulting and teaching experience now. I investigate for a variety of different states, various complaints. So very happy to be here, and again, really appreciate all of your staff and dedication that you all have. Thank you.
We have with us as well Ms. Melissa Bond, almost third.
Good morning, all. Wonderful to be with you again.
Thank you. And our new staff, Laura Winkle. You haven't met her. Of course, our new board member, Matt Mueller, if you have not had a chance to meet him, their new home inspector. And one more thing, Miss Julie Matthews is here with us by Zoom, but she has not been sworn in, so she will be abstaining from voting. I'm going to put that on the record. Right, now we've got through that, we will go to the roll call.
Michael Gordina.
Here.
Sarah Hawkins.
Here.
Brian Hester.
Here.
Wally Lovelace.
Here.
Julie Matthews.
Here.
Scott McKinnon.
Here.
Matthew Weaver.
Here.
Sarah Stevens. Here. Daniel Storling.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, we have quorum.
Sorry. So, we need to, since Danny is not here, we need to approve or not approve his absence. He is at his son's, is it his Army Ranger camp graduation, I believe. So
Make a motion that we approve his absence.
I second that. All in favor? I would entertain a motion to adopt the meeting agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Also entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the May 16th, 25 meeting.
Second.
All in favor? We'll move on to the committee reports and Ms. Sarah Stevens with the education.
If you look in your packet, what I'm going to talk about is towards back and actually after the minutes from last time's meeting. We're going to start out with course approvals. Had a couple. First of all, e-learning, classroom synchronous presentation, professionalism, partnership, performance, evaluating both experience, 3 hours. And in reviewing the material, I'd like to recommend that we approve that presentation.
I'll make a motion we approve it.
Second. All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is Green Mountain e-learning. There's two presentations. Both of them are online. One is understanding data analysis concepts, 5 hours of CE. And the other is interagency appraisal and evaluation guidelines, what you need to know, 7 hours of CE. Again, after having reviewed and looked through the material, I'd like to recommend that we approve both of those.
So moved.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And thirdly, Melissa Bond, it's classroom and synchronous adjustments to supporting commentary, 7 hours of CE, again, reviewing, taking a look at that. I'd like to ask your approval, my recommendation, and I'd like a motion.
So moved.
Second. Any comments, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the next is individual appraisal credits. First request is from Piper Cornell, asking for 7 hours of CE from Bella Appraisal Consulting Services, 2025 appraisal and evaluation compliance update. It's a classroom. She took it May the 12th of 2025. Having reviewed this and looked over the material, I really find very little of the material. In fact, nothing in the material she provided us convinces me that this is pertinent to appraisal. And so I would recommend that we not approve this particular.
What did it pertain to?
This was more a lending seminar and some of the regs that they had to engage in. It was very specific to bank and bank credit and lending, and not to.
Says 2025 appraisal. It means how do we deal with the appraiser?
Yeah.
And the appraisal product, not developing.
There was little there, maybe just a teeny bit. And so I think to give her 7 hours of CE for more or less a lending financial institution experience is something that I would ask that we not do.
I'll make a motion that we not approve the 7 hours.
Second.
Second that.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the next is from Mark Martin, and he has two different courses that he's asking for credit for. Both of them are from the our managers and the appraisers. One is for 4 hours of CE, the other for 8. And the first one is a seminar on farm dominions. And the second is on understanding conservation easement valuation. And in reviewing the material, looking over it, and I even reached out about the barn dominion to try to get a better understanding about what they were doing. I think that is perfect, and the appraisal information is pertinent to what we are looking for. And so I'd like to recommend that we approve both of those.
So much.
Any second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and the next is something that we don't do very often, and that is to approve a new vendor application. And these are from Trusted Advisors Gap Services LLC. And between Sarah and I, we spent a little time on the computer trying to track these people down. But they are looking at a classroom synchronous presentation about valuation bias, fair housing laws and regulations. Both of the ladies who are presenting have extensive, according to what I can find, and Sarah, I think you back it up on this, extensive background in working with financial institutions, valuation bias, the kinds of information that contribute to fair housing laws, et cetera. And again, that was obvious in their first application. So tracking them down a little bit took some time, but after reading through their material, I believe that they are capable of presenting this. Now, the classroom and synchronous learning experience, according to their website, was set up for financial institutions, but they say that it is coming for appraisal. And so I'd like to make the recommendation that we approve and make that contingent on the fact that they actually do present a course for appraisers. Because as I see it right now, what they have is keyed into financial institution, the institution, and they're presenting the information, but it's not specific to a person. Anybody have a question? All right. Could I have a motion on that?
So much.
All right. Any discussion? And they also have a proctor list. And again, we don't often get into proctor business. That's usually something that we've done before. It comes along with the thing, but I just want you to know that we're approving the vendor, we're approving the course, and we're approving the proctors. Okay. And I don't know, do I need to amend my motion to include that? I think, okay. Anybody have a question? Appreciate it. We have a light. We didn't vote. I'm sorry. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And then we have the home inspectors, and how you want to do that?
Oh, I've looked at the classes, but you're welcome to go. Did you want to do with the cap approval at this point?
Yeah, let's do that.
Since we're on appraisers, let's talk about that.
I met with Susie and Sarah and Diana on Wednesday, and we talked about our education process, framework, et cetera. and trying to get us into a position where we don't experience the same pushback that we got on the evaluation that we had earlier. So, and I think we talked about that. Everybody understands. So the first thing I'd like to do is to tell you that we decided, this is just more information than anything, that we would continue to process the applications for education, but we're going to be very, very stringent on the fact that certain things are presented with the application. We've added one thing, and that is that we want to see, and we want the provider to tell us which of the approved courses or topics per the Appraisal Foundation, this particular educational experience is going to cover. And so what we're going to do is we're going to amend one of the, or just include a new form, and we'll just ask them to check off. And if you're not aware of this, there are 10 topics, and they're in the regs, and you know, they're like ethics and standards, or let's see, some
Ad valorem taxes.
yeah, ad valorem taxes, some of the other topics that appraisers deal with, and we're just going to ask them to tell us what it falls into. Okay, but we're going to continue to ask for the timed outline, ask for a course description, and ask for an instructor application. Now, sometimes we don't get all that, and Sarah spends a great deal of time on phone going back, trying to get all this stuff put together. And if she has sent it to me and it's not there, then I spend my time going through the application only to have to say, we need this and this and this. So we're in the process of saying, this is the way it's going to be. And it's, you know, just basically talking about the process to say Sarah time, Susie time, and Sarah time. So, just getting us to the point where everybody's on the same page, we have all the same material, and then we can make that decision about the class having been presented in the correct way, so that our appraisers are getting what they are asking for and what they deserve and what these people are saying they're supposed to be getting. So that's basically going to be the process. So we're having hope that in doing that, especially in asking them to tell us what is this course, which one of these topics does this course fit into, that's going to help out, I think, a lot in regard to anybody who comes in and takes a look at what we've done and what we've improved, because we're saying it fits there. But we're not saying that, we're asking the provider to say it. That makes a big difference. Also, one of the things that Dennis and Larry provided was a little information about CAP approval. And the CAP approval, and you all know that if we get something and it has CAP approval, then we're not looking at the content of the course. That's all been taken care of outside of our domain. So if we get something and it's sent in with CAP approval, we just have always said, okay, but CAP approval only applies to the material. It does not apply to the provider. It does not apply to the instructor. And so we want to make sure, and I appreciate the clarification there from you guys, that we understand that that's not included, and we have to go after that piece of information from whoever is providing. And so from now on, we're going to be asking for that information too. So any questions on basically the overview I've given you? So in an effort to try to streamline what we did and try to get ourselves in a position where we're efficient and where our providers don't have to wait a long, long time to know if class is approved or not approved, because, you know, if you're an appraiser and you're getting ready to take something, you're not going to sign up for it if it doesn't have approval from the state. That's just the bottom line. Nobody wants to be hung out having spent the money, sign up, and then find out that they're not going to be able to get credit for it, which is happening. So I am putting forth a motion today, and it says I'd like to make a motion that we authorize the executive director of the Arkansas Board of Appraisers, Abstractors, Home Inspectors to approve instructors, proctors, and providers of education, provided that CAP approval has been granted for the course. And I realize it sounds like I'm giving our executive director an awful lot of overview, but really course material is the overview that's the most difficult for us to go through. And this just simply makes it easier for Diana and the staff to move stuff through and get stuff done, and to not take as much time in getting all that approved through the courses. So anybody have a question?
Well, I'll second that motion, but I got a dumb question. What's CAP stand for?
Course approval program.
Who does that? QBASC,
The Appraisal Foundation.
or the foundation, all right.
And you know, Larry, you might just kind of give our business a kind of a broad overview of what happens when somebody has CAP approval, what they have to do.
Well, I am approved to do that and do it currently. What I received is just as Sarah said, it's an overview. We have an application and it explains what the course is and whether it's going to have an exam or it's going to be for continuing education only. And I get all the paperwork that's with it and simply go through that, look at the slides if there's a PowerPoint, look at the information that is going to be given as especially with an exam. And it's my job to make sure each of the items they have are specific to real property appraising or whatever it might be approval from CAP won't send us anything unless it's going to be approved for all type of disciplines that deal with real property. And I look at that, if there's a problem, and we do about 30% have to send back and do over, and they correct the information, send it back, including any PowerPoint or other aids they use. And then I send it back approved, and it goes out to what you see on the portal, that this course has been approved for CAP, education. And that's kind of you don't see it. You don't see the information, you can get it, but it's just an approval. And if it's a denial, you never see it until they either rework it or pull it.
And that kind of gives you the idea of why the credibility is attached and why I'm saying that our executive director can take that, take a look at the instructor, take a look at the provider, proctor, etc., and then make a decision. The content's the hardest most of the time.
It is, and if I can add this one piece, I'm just the reviewer. They've got two levels above that. They've got a secondary reviewer, and then they do the final with all the education courses being reviewed and approved at one time. There might be 5 or 10 that other people have done as well. So it's not one set of eyes, it's multiple.
And it, just lends credibility
Yeah.
to the whole entire process.
And we do not do the instructor because there might be 10 instructors out there. So that's up to the state to make a decision if they're going to, you all ask for VETA and approved. So that's how that works. It's not our job to tell you they can or can't. That's yours.
You may have a question. Okay. So I would like to ask for your approval on the motion, so.
You already have
Got
second.
it, first and second session, all right. Any discussion? Anything else that you need to know? And this only applies to the cap approval, not to the other education presentations. All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, going on to the home inspector education. Let's do these just by the presenters. And we have a short list this time. Everybody must be taking the vacation. All right, so inspector certification associates asking for, is it all right to do these all as one from? All right, mold and fungus or fungi, advanced home technology, understanding coastal homes, writing professional inspection reports, and history of homes. And everything is 4 hours of sneaky with the exception of advanced home technology. And they're all presented, by Floyd Gibbs. All right, like a motion to approve on the second. Any discussion?
Yes, what is the history of homes 1980s? How does that add to home inspectors? And so,
I would presume that, go ahead, Donna.
It's more about the construction, way things were constructed in the 1980s, things that you might want to look for, and it's already going through so that you can, whether you need to decide whether or not to put that in your report. It's more just construction techniques that we use that perhaps are different from things that are done now.
I've got one other question. I continually run into inspections where the city doesn't uphold the code with regard to decks. Is there any course that balances serviceable safely and code violations to reduce unreal fear that buyers have?
We don't have anything to do with code. So there's not a class that I know of that would teach that.
We've had CE classes that go into like current standards, accepted practices, and things like that. That's a lot of the verbiage we use in the report is current standard, accepted practice. This is incorrect. I think the statistics like 10% of decks in America were built correctly.
Yeah.
All the way through. And so they equip us with enough information to make sure that we inform the client where it's at. And then it gets pretty subjective from there in terms of how much it does or doesn't bother them. And then of course, depending on how extreme circumstances, we may have the liberty to push it a little more heavily with the client, things like that. So there is a standard code for decks. We don't enforce it, but we try to uphold best practices and make note of things that we feel like would be problematic or concern. So
then it really would fall on the realtor to advise their client that if they're buying a house with a deck, there will be issues as far as code of the inspection shows that, which again, that's outside of anything on this board, but being a realtor, preparing a buyer for the inspection process. I'll leave one other comment. I still object to the mold and fungi continuing education, since that's not part of the standards of practice. It's specifically excluded from inspectors. Serves no purpose for it.
what would that, so just thought on the mold fungi, if I can ask about that a little bit. One is it is outside the standards of practice, but it's something that comes up constantly for us that people are worried about. And so education is a good thing for us to have, even if it's not contained in the scope of what we look at, but also a lot of inspectors are starting to do ancillary services that provide air quality testing and mold sampling and litter samples and things like that. So although it doesn't pertain directly to the SOP, I think it would be a beneficial thing to equip home inspectors with that knowledge. Because what I'm seeing is there's a huge, I don't know where the line's going to be drawn ultimately, but we're getting now as home inspectors into sewer scopes and air quality testing and various things that go well beyond, but we're just projecting them as ancillary services. And so I have a fellow inspector that took that class with Floyd Gibbs, and he said it's been extremely valuable to him in the course of just talking people through things. Because in Arkansas, you have a crawl space, you have mold. It's what it is, and people want to know, well, is this dangerous? And we use appropriate verbiage to state we don't evaluate, and we, unless they did the testing, we don't test. However, the more information we can give them, and the better the process goes. So realtors appreciate it when we have a lot more knowledge, because those things are way beyond the scope of what a realtor needs to navigate. And so I think there's value in it, but that's kind of why I would see the value even outside of the SOP.
Yeah. I need to take it.
So I plan on taking it.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Could I have a motion to accept? I did it. Motion is.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. And the next list is lengthy. It's from the Ashy School. And they have several classes listed here. Plumbing solutions, water drain damage investigations, commercial inspections, safety for home inspectors, field discoveries and disclosures, risk management, masonry, fireplaces and chimneys. What do you see? What did you say? Developing into a multi-inspector company, practical marketing 101 for home inspectors, and effective building and electrical products. All of those are for 2 hours of CE, and both John Bolton, Joe Konopaki, Brian Smith, Tom Urban, Rick Rickards as instructors. And
I have one comment about the class, because I reviewed the home inspector material. I wanted to point out that the we license home inspectors, not commercial inspectors. And this is truly a commercial inspection class. Just want to point that out for the board to decide.
Which class is that?
The commercial inspection class. That
If a home inspector took the class, would he or she get CE point?
yes, that becomes the question. We license home inspectors. This is a commercial inspector. And again, they may get great information in the class, but does it rise to the level of what the board wants to allow them to count towards their CE credit? That was my question.
In my opinion, it sends a little bit of a mixed signal.
That's the reason I'm bringing to you to point that out for y'all to make the decision. We have to have the first classes and to pass. Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Any other discussions? What are your, Michael, Matt?
do we get a commercial board? No, I've dated commercial stuff. It hasn't been. I don't want to be devil's advocate. I always see added value. They're bigger systems, bigger components. The more you learn about different roofing types, systems, and things like that, the more you see, the more value you can bring into inspection. But I also understand that it's not specific to what we do every day. It is different systems. We have 3 days, 17. So I think it's a beneficial class. I don't know that I see it pertaining to home inspections or residential applications.
So, I take it every year because it's on the Ashy member, and I went to pay. And I'm insured and I do commercial inspection, so that's why I do it. But I think it sends if we approve it, it sends a mixed signal to our home inspectors that says, hey, if I do this, I can do commercial inspections. What we need to do, I think, in my opinion. Although it's beneficial, but I think we need to go on the record saying if you want to do it, you can do it. However, you're you're not gonna get CTE as a home inspector too. So.
So I propose we make a motion to decline the commercial. fee.
So you're gonna amend the motion.
No, there wasn't a motion.
We haven't done a motion.
Oh.
So could we do the motion and state that we'll approve a list of ASHE classes with the exception of number C, commercial inspection? Is that one?
I have another question about practical marketing 101 for home inspectors.
Well, it's just a little bit about how to keep your books and how to run your office and how to market yourself. There wasn't anything in it that gave me pause that it wouldn't be beneficial to a home inspector to just be refreshed on. And it is under a list of home inspectors as well have a list of topics that we typically approve and what does fall within.
And it's actually about 3 hours of the 80 hours that required prior to registration. So, yeah, required running as well.
Okay.
Good question.
So the motion then is to approve all of the ASHE classes with the exception of C, commercial inspection. Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Okay, Sarah, will you now do a motion to deny C?
Okay, we can.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. And so motion would be to deny ASHE course commercial inspections, 2 hours of CE. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And the last one is the Arkansas Association of Real Estate Inspectors. And their class is HVAC and electrical inspectors, 8 hours, instructed by Mark Hart. And any discussion? Like have a motion to approve that, so that, second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Financial committee report, Sarah Hopkins.
The treasurer's report being read for today, $2,254,220.86. Can I get a motion to accept the financials as read?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yours was easier than Sarah's.
Much easier.
The staff reports, the investigator report. Diana?
Thank you. Yesterday, we held just a appraiser jurisdiction committee meeting. We looked at 4 different cases. They're 25, 11, 56, 57, 58, 59. In each case, the board did not have jurisdiction in those cases. There was no jurisdiction. A couple of them, we are going to go back and ask for additional information. I'll let them know that with additional information, they can refile them, but they were all with the information that we were provided before we put the capital jurisdiction. And with that, that is the appraiser report. There is not a home inspector report, and we are do have several cases. Are we ratifying these as we go, Susie? So Brian's the appraiser to home inspectors.
Entertain a motion to ratify the appraiser investigator report.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor?
Okay. With respect to home inspectors, when the home inspectors on the board, you will be asked to come in and work a hearing day because we have some complaints to go. So that will be before the next board meeting. We'll definitely have a meeting. We can have several things for you guys to look at. It was the end of the same fiscal year and a lot of other moving parts, but are able to get it done in time for this meeting today. So I don't know if there's a red flag, but there's a national meeting. We'll have something. Takes 20 days. That's my investigator. Thanks, sir.
Let's go ahead and ratify it just in case, have a motion to ratify the investigator's report. So, all inspectors, second, all in favor. Now the director's report.
The director's report is, it is a very busy time at the State Board of Appraisers, Abstractors, and Home Inspectors. You will notice we have Ms. Laura with us today. We have lost 2 employees, and we lost them within 2 weeks of each other. Devin Parker moved on to something else, as did Armistead Reesner. And at this point, we have hired Ms. Laura in Devin's position. That we're going to repurpose that position just a little bit. She will be helping out a lot with the home inspectors. So, not to Ms. Laura, she need to keep her for a while. And then at a later date, we will be filling Armistead's position. You had no other idea, huh? So it's been quite busy, but I wanted to talk about appraiser renewals, and Susie has better numbers, I think, than I do. We didn't lose but about 20 or 30 people this time during the renewal cycle. Is that correct? We're going to go with that number. We lost about 30 people that opted to retire. This was not an education year for us, so I suspect next year we'll lose more than that. We were down, our numbers are down just a little bit when I looked at that. With respect to home inspectors, there's a couple things I want to talk about, and one of them for me is something that I have spent a large amount of time on the last few weeks, and that is the home inspector insurance change. As you guys know, the legislature changed the requirement from general liability insurance to professional liability or E&O insurance. The law says that the insurance department has to approve the insurance. That's what it says. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So we sent out a reminder, or we sent out a notice to let everyone know that this change goes into effect on August the 5th. I had spoken to the insurance department, and I am working with them to make certain that all of the policies that we've accepted, we've had a good, maybe closing in on half of our home inspectors have gotten their certificates to us, reflecting, because it gets tricky because you have to have the general liability to August 5th, so you can't cancel it yet. And a lot of them are not canceling it, or they're not going to. And then they have to add the professional liability by August 5th. So it's been a lot of moving parts, and it's still moving parts. I'm hopeful that there won't be any hiccups in it. I will say this, that both the senator and representative that put forth the bill have been very kind and spoken to any of the home inspectors for me that were upset. And this is not a bill that we had anything at all to do with. It's came from outside of the department, and but we're going to make it through it. It's a little bit of a change. It is a lot more expensive than those that are accepted. For some of them, been a significant increase in their insurance benefits. We have lost home inspectors, so not many at this point, but the closer we get to August 5th, I think there'll be a more step out for the rest of it. And then the second thing, Senator Bryant wanted to hire a home inspector investigator, contract investigator, sort of like Larry and Mark with us, and because he is wanting eyes on every home inspection complaint filed against that's found. We are, moving forward with, I've got some qualifications. I've got something that's out this next week. If you guys would like to see it, it's department has approved. This is how they want it done. It's forward. We'll just see one. The goal is to get home inspectors from different areas to go so that we've got the entire state covered. So it would not be good to send someone's direct competition to be people on your work.
So it's not a position, it's a contract.
Going to be contract labor, and I've got that in there. This is not a state position. There are no state benefits. This is a per assignment basis only. Senator Bryant got us the appropriation for travel and to pay the contract investigator. And there's been a lot of discussion about it. So to send out the email and see if we can or in that and doing this type of work for us. The decision was made that it would apply to only what the complainant is complaining, what their complaint relates to. We're not hiring, we're not going to have somebody come in and do a home inspection on this property. They're only going to look at whatever complaint involves here in this. We discussed that as well. That's the way to
How do you determine compensation? An hourly or?
it will be an hourly amount, and one of the qualifiers we put in there was someone with 5 years experience. So, you know, someone with more experience, someone with, you know, might be a little bit higher than someone who probably don't. I have no idea.
Yeah.
We're working on this as
Going back to the E&O requirement on August 5th, what happens on August 6th if Sarah doesn't have her E&O?
Then Erin, correct me if I'm wrong, she's gonna get my lovely letter that says you don't have the proper insurance in 30 days, you're going to expire, you're gonna be suspended.
That's part of the Department of Labor license.
Yes, it is. That's what this is, because for me to suspend your license, it has been deemed that we have to give them 30 days notice that the suspension is going to occur.
Are all of the providers basically charging the same rate, do you know, or is it?
It depends on past positions, how long you've been doing it. There's several things that go into that premium.
But all things being equal, if you turn your information into each of the 5, would they all basically quote the same thing, or it's?
No.
Okay. No. And the other question I have is, will this investigator present some kind of written report like we get from Dennis and Larry, or have we gotten that far yet?
Well, they're going to have to give us a written report. And as the same as with Dennis and Larry, it is a tool for the toolbox. The home inspector investigator in this position will not be making a recommendation as to how the complaint is to take. Only the board can do that. So this is just a tool for the toolbox for information for you to consider when we adjudicate a complaint.
What does that look like on the home inspector side of things? They say there's an issue that comes up and they send out the investigator, and because there's a lot of just, the more you do this, the more, we were just talking about this earlier, there's such a disconnect in the mind of the client and the home inspector of what is and is not included, what falls under what umbrella. We have to use a lot of sometimes general language that does include, and if they feel like it's not. So what, with the added eyes of that investigator, how far does that go then to either limiting or even adding to the liability of that home inspector? So in an instance where he comes back and says, hey, they're upset this was here when you wrote this out, does that actually do anything to limit the liability, or is it I guess I'm wondering how much of a role it would play in the way things happen afterwards, because if someone wants to just carry out a, go to litigation of some kind regardless, where does that play into it, or is it just a second set of eyes and more steps?
I think it's another set of eyes. So the investigator would go and either substantiate the claim or usually in most instances, they won't say this is a violation, but they might say something in the report that says there's substantial evidence to show, to support this violation, something like that. And then the board takes that report, compares it to the original complaint, the response given by the home inspector. It's just another piece for them to look at. They can reject the report, they can accept it as it's written, but they're not required to do it.
Yeah, so it's just added information and value to help make a decision. Yeah.
So do we have a time frame, a time limit that these claims apply? Let's say you bought a house, and got an inspection report, didn't read it, 5 years down the road, or even 3 years down the road, there's a problem, and the home inspector had mentioned it, but you just didn't look at it.
There is a time frame, there is a time limit, and I believe it's 3 years. In the new rules, I believe it's 3.
It's 1.
It is not.
So is that?
That.
Litigate past 1 year?
Oh, no. Are you asking about filing a complaint, or are you asking about litigation?
I'm asking about how long, if I file a complaint, how long, appraisal is 3 years, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, 3 years is the home inspector.
To file a complaint with the board is 3 years. To file litigation is 1 year. You're absolutely correct about the 1 year.
Okay.
Well, of course, I've said this before. A 3-year-old home inspection.
Mm-hmm.
We're wasting time, we're wasting money, because someone can't go out there and see what that inspector saw 3 years ago.
That's why I'm here today, just because they were gonna extend it to 3 years from 1. And I've built houses as well, so I've got 2 companies going, and the amount of movement and things that can change in a house just because of the soil, but much less the person living inside of it and how well they do or don't maintain things. 3 years is just an astronomical amount of time for houses to shift and change, and to try and still have what we found that day apply to it.
In some cases, I agree. Some that it's obvious whether it's 2 or 3 or 5. So I'm not afraid of one or the other, but I'm just saying some shortcomings are evident whether it's 2 or 5 years.
And I understand your concerns, because I have the same concerns. But unfortunately, this is something that we've at least got to try.
Yeah, I think I'm about accountability. I think there's a way to tighten things up. There's a raw element of competence in every field. So
I completely agree.
It's coming from up above, a real general statement and requirement. We've had to figure out what that looks like.
So as far as the road hits the rubber, once we identify jurisdiction, no jurisdiction, that's where the home inspector and investigator would actually be fired. He would be handed the case.
Because as Scott just said, every home inspection complaint is not a founded complaint. Not everyone needs to do full this. And so I don't see a reason to send somebody just because a complaint is filed. I think the board needs to look at it first before we send out the investigator. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I may lose on that, but that's what we're going with. That's what we're going to do. This is truly a trial and error thing. But the most important takeaway for the board is, as Aaron had said, this is just something else for the board to consider. You can put no weight on it at all if you so choose. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Chair Director's report.
I don't know. Is it my director's report? My director's report Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, that is my director report for today.
Renewals for inspectors down.
The home inspectors aren't renewing yet until December.
That's right.
Appraisers just had their 30th. The last one for home inspectors was about 50, but we are back up to 397
Okay.
as of last Friday. We've had several reports.
I'll entertain a motion to ratify or accept the director's report.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Old business.
Yeah. I'll finish my director's report of that too. So at our last board meeting, we had a discussion about an appraiser who's been convicted of a felony that is going to jail for 10 years. And the fact that it was not a disqualifying factor or disqualifying offense, it's what it is, disqualifying offense. He has since decided to surrender his license. So I just wanted the board to know that he has written a letter to surrender his license, and I need you to vote to accept his surrender.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Surprised.
It was a nice surrender.
A new business.
New business. And Aaron is going to help me with this one. We have had a request from a potential home inspector that he does not have a high school diploma or a GED. And he would like the board to waive that requirement. He has his own little lawn service company that he's run for several years and submitted a couple of letters of recommendation. But I was unclear if the board even had the authority to waive that particular requirement. Aaron?
After a cursory review of the rules and statutes, I don't believe the board has that authority. There is a procedure for an applicant to challenge a denial of an application, and that would be found in Rule 3, Part G. And in that, the burden is going to be on the applicant showing that he is entitled to the license and that he was unjustly denied. So that's what he would have to prove at a hearing. I don't see anything in the rules or the statutes that would allow the board to waive a requirement for a home inspection license.
And thank you. And I brought it to the board and then bring it forward. Or did you guys tell them now? So, Mr. Chair, can we get a motion to deny? And so, what do we?
He's asked for the hearing.
No. He's just
He just asked for the waiver.
Yes, but he didn't want to go take the classes and do everything he needed to do and spend the money if we weren't going to be able to give him a license. So do we need to officially, is there anything for us to officially deny, or do I just let him know that we're not, that statute, by statutes and rules?
I mean, the board could make that motion that they don't have the authority to waive that requirement. I don't think that's required, but that may make it easier to explain to the applicant.
So was entertaining a motion to deny the waiver on the fact that we do not have authority to waive that rule.
So moved.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
And I think I can handle the other business, which is our next meeting.
Here, I have one other thing under new business, and this is a question for Aaron. Aaron, just out of curiosity, I see a lot of things about boards and commissions and the people on them being brought into litigation over certain aspects of, I serve on this board. I'm not an employee of the state. Could you tell me if I do a lot of the hearings and that kind of stuff. So if somebody decides that they want to sue me individually, what kind of protection do I have from the state for that?
As a general rule, someone would only be able to sue a board member personally if there was some sort of negligence or some malfeasance involved. So if you are doing board business in a way that you've always done board business, most of the time you cannot be sued. If somebody wanted to sue this board, they would probably name the chairman in his official capacity as the chairman of the board. But they wouldn't be able to sue him personally unless he did something wrong to them. He didn't follow rules and it ended up in some sort of damages. He went after them, you know, something like that. So most of the time, anything that's handled in a board, in a board meeting is not going to give someone cause to sue a board member individually.
Let's say, worst case scenario, if they did, would the state defend that person? Because we're working on, or with a board, and we've been installed by the state, et cetera? Or is this a consideration that, I mean, do we as board members need to think about having some kind of liability insurance? I mean, I'm just asking.
Yeah, that would really depend on what was happening. So if you were acting or a board member was acting within the scope of their powers, and nothing was out of the ordinary, most of the time the Attorney General's office would take that on and ask that the board member be released from the litigation, or would argue that for them. How much they argue for you, it's going to depend on what the situation is. At some point, if they decided, look, this board member was out of order, and more than likely what would happen is they would tell you, we are not going to cover you on this because your actions exceeded what you are on this board to do. And so at that point, you would have to get your own. It is. It is. So it's hard to say without an actual case what would happen, but it is something that could happen, but it would have to be, you would have to do something fairly outrageous and again outside the scope of your powers as a board member.
Okay.
It's happened before.
It has happened.
They sued the.
But I don't think First will sue me personally. I think this is general board.
It's the board.
Uh,
It's the board, but you were chair, so you got named.
Yeah.
On that note, if I do something wrong, you better smack me hard.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I say one more thing before we break today? And I'm really sorry that Sarah's not in the room. But I just want to applaud my staff. They have gone above and beyond, and they put up with me every day and all the craziness that goes with that. But I want this board to know what a wonderful group we have and how excited we are to have on. Things are just going to get better. Thank you.
It was a punch to anybody today.
Amazing.
Our next meeting will be September 19th at 10 a.m. That we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Done.
Got a second? Second. All in favor? Opposed?